Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ministry Mondays with Meg. I'm Meg. Imagine that, right? So you're in the right place. Welcome, everyone. Ministry Mondays is about. Oh yeah, wait. This is Ministry Mondays on a Tuesday. I needed to say that. Um, Ministry Mondays is about talking to people who are doing ministry beyond the traditional Sunday and church behind the pulpit ministry, helping people realize that ministry really goes on everywhere, not just in a church building. And today, my guest is, I get to pull up your title, Reverend Dr. Jonathan Malone, who is founder of the Wilderness Journeys, podcast 12 Enough, author of A Peculiar Church. And for those listening, I am holding upside down his book, A Particular Church. And also, let us not forget ABC Historical Society president. Very fancy. You're the first president I've ever had on my show that I'm aware of. So Jonathan, welcome and thank you for being a part of this madness.
Yeah, so a couple of things right off front. First, I love that music beforehand. I was like, that was
The countdown.
that's what, yeah, countdown. I was ready for the praise band to come out and for me just to give my life to Jesus Christ one more time with the lucid sound
Never
of
do
the
it too many
U2
times.
knockout band. That was fantastic. Second, yes, I'm the current president of the Historical Society, and I want to just declare right now, I am not going to run for re-election.
Okay.
One term was enough. I did everything I need to. I
Right.
think, yeah, because I'm someone who actually accomplishes things in the time set to do it. I don't need to go again.
How long is the term?
I don't even know, like 4 years or something like that.
Or
No,
until they
I
tell
think
you,
it's
"Oh,
I
we
think it's
found
2
somebody
years.
else."
Yeah. I'm not sure. It's all days. It's a wonderful fog of bliss and history.
Okay. I mean, and to my knowledge, and for those watching and those who've been on the show, if you've been a president, please, by all means, let me know if I failed to acknowledge your presidentness
That'll
in
work.
your episode. um, in your episode. Um, so we got your presidentness,
Yeah, let's get
Mr.
that.
President.
Yeah, folks, go check out the American Baptist Historical Society. Wonderful place. We do some great work, and we're in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah. Um, do go check them down, check them out, really. So for those who, I don't know, for some reason, don't know you, haven't met you,
It happens.
one, where have they been?
I know.
But
That's
two,
seriously.
yeah. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you other than the presidentness? Or
Sure.
in addition to the presidentness.
In addition, sure. So I've been a local church pastor for over 20 years with the American Baptist denomination. Born and raised American Baptist. Um, yeah, if you cut me, I bleed little A, B's, and C's.
Mm,
They use me for like spaghetti can of soup sometimes, but
I hear you. I
yeah,
hear you.
yeah. And I serve churches in Dayton, Ohio, Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, on the main line outside of Philly, and most recently, the last church I served was in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. Wonderful time, all good churches, very meaningful pastorate. But in the last year or a little more than a year, I resigned from being a parish minister and now and started Wilderness Journeys, where I would describe myself as now a wilderness pastor. And I take folks on day hikes or multi-day backpacking trips for to be able to encounter God in a different way. So, in fact, just recently, last week, I was in the Seattle. I was just outside of Seattle in the North Cascades in Washington State with some folks from the Evergreen region, some clergy folks there,
We love the Evergreen region.
and they made it out.
And they made it out.
I take them in and then see if they can get out, and they did.
Right.
Yeah.
Has anyone not made it out? Just
Well, I mean, there's a question of wholeness. if
Okay.
you leave. Whether you make it out with all that you went in with, I can't speak for that. But a part, an essence of them in some way or another has returned.
Okay. Physically return. Okay, got
I
this.
don't
This
know if
could be
physically,
very deep
emotionally, mentally,
conversation.
who's to say?
And you do those, like, all over
All over. So
the
I was just
US.
before Washington, I was in Utah. In a couple weeks, I'm going to be in Maine. Then I've got some trips in New York, Pennsylvania, back to Maine, Wisconsin, maybe. So yeah, I'll go anywhere people want to go.
Okay.
Arkansas later.
And you haven't been banned from any states yet that you know of?
Not yet, but National Hike Naked Day is coming up, and that might be the thing that pushes it. That's June 21st, folks. It's summer solstice, whatever. It's the 20th or 21st, but that's if you want to see something wild, go for those crazy trails and see if you find some mountain hikers. Bring your camera or don't. That's up to you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I yeah.
I think I'll be
Alright.
at. I mean, that's right before biennial, so I think it's worth going early and just running through the rainforest naked.
Right? I mean, why not? Why not, right?
I
See what
can give
happens.
you. I mean, for myself, I can give you multiple reasons why not,
Right, right,
but I
but
won't speak for anyone else.
right.
I mean, you go how the spirit moves you, or doesn't.
Or doesn't. Or
Yeah.
doesn't yeah.
Yeah, sometimes God gives an adamant no, don't do that. Sometimes that's the
Mm,
holy call. The holy call
right.
is not
Like,
go.
this would be a terrible idea
This
if
would be a
you
bad idea. How hard is it? Every time we go to God, it's looking for a yes. When do we go to God and get a resounding no? And how do we wrestle with that? Like, where's the spiritual discernment in that, right?
Yeah, the Lord told me not to run naked through the
Right?
rainforest, and all of God's people said, "Amen."
All of
Yeah.
God's people said amen. Well, I mean, so I remember talking to someone who was a professor, and he said, "Yeah, I went to seminary, I went into ministry, and 2 years in, I could see the writing on the wall, and so I left and became a professor." And I always wonder, like, what was that writing? How would you know
Right.
that? Because right, because I've met people, and I won't name names, but they rhyme with. No, I'm not gonna. Who you meet them and you talk to them and you say, "I don't know if you're really doing the thing that's best for you." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did anybody ever say that to you?
Oh, not about ministry, but many other things, sure. Like
Oh,
you say,
I had a congregant tell me that one time.
"Ooh, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
what
that didn't go well.
what did you do with that?"
Um, well, thank you for your opinion. Um, I will, take it under advisement,
I gotta
you
file
know?
that in the "who cares" category.
Right. I mean, what do you other than just smile and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is a disaster," kind of
Which
thing.
right, apropos of that, there's no swearing on this podcast, right?
I mean,
That's not a no.
mhm. Yeah, you're right, it's not a no. I've not had it happen yet. I mean, other
Well,
than in my head, but, I mean, they didn't give me rules. They were
I'll
just
keep
like,
it right, we don't know who's gonna watch this, I'll keep it clean for you, Meg, just to make
"Oh,
editing easier.
oh,
Well, that's
thanks,
that's the kinda guy
thanks."
I am.
I probably have to tell Spotify or something if I have cursing in there. I don't know.
Right, you have to make it explicit.
Uh-huh. Ooh, my
Which so that's one of the things I know we're kinda jumping all over the place. I haven't given you a chance to ask any questions yet, but
that's okay.
one of the things about being in the wilderness that I really love is the authenticity that people bring, and not that people are inauthentic elsewhere. What we call the front country, back country, front country. Um, but there's something about being in the back country where you're really like just dealing with the basics. You're facing the elements. You're pushing yourself. People tend to swear, and I especially when I call it forest mouth. I say this is an appropriate way to respond, to go ahead and let the cussing fly. I mean, within reason. Don't start just letting off a stream just for the heck of it. But it's hard. Some people don't feel safe. Some people are worried about their own lives, and they're not gonna like hold back. And I think that kind of vulnerability and authenticity opens oneself up for a different kind of spiritual experience that I don't think we always get in church. I'm not saying it's better; it's just different.
No, I agree. Like, in some of my own grief things in this past year,
Mm,
a certain four-letter word that begins with the letter F and is fire truck,
fire truck.
um,
I was just gonna say it.
is fire truck, has become a prayer at
Mhm.
times, and I think God's okay with that. So,
Well, it's not like God hasn't heard it, and
right.
I imagine God has said it in God's own way when we do things that are enraging.
Mhm. Right, like, what the fire truck are you thinking, you know? I
Yeah,
mean, seriously, but no, I get that, and I like that there's permission, to say what needs to be said and
yeah.
in the midst of 'cause I get it, I get it, I really do. Uh, so when you were pastoring,
Mhm.
had you started the wilderness thing, or did you completely
Right.
stop? How'd that all happen?
So, I've always been an avid outdoors person, not a hunter so much, but hiker. A little bit of canoeing here and there, but mostly hiking, backpacking. And when I moved to Rhode Island and was serving a church here, I'm not far from the Adirondacks in upstate New York, and also not far from the White Mountains in New Hampshire. And I started going there, and then I did start taking groups. I took our youth group, and I took some young adults, some clergy from some American Baptist clergy joined me on a couple of trips, and it was this kind of growing thing in me. And then I got a sabbatical, which was such a gift. And during that sabbatical, I went to the Adirondacks, and there's 46 mountains there that are over 4,000 feet. And so I climbed all of them for my sabbatical, and that kind of accelerated this desire to be in the outdoors. So it's been this growing part of me for quite some time. And so I finally got to this place where I said, I really want to be focusing just on the wilderness experiences, and in such a way that if I continued to try to serve as a pastor, I wouldn't be able to give everything to the wilderness experiences, or I wouldn't be able to be as present as a pastor because my heart would be torn.
Mhm.
That and there probably was some very real burnout that I was wrestling with as well. In retrospect, I look back and like, oh yeah, I was definitely burning out too. It was a good church that I left. Good people, good church. So it wasn't any kind of traumatic fight.
But
It
I'm
was.
also glad that you could see that in yourself to go, "This is where I'm at. This is"
Hmm.
you know, and and that you allowed yourself to lean into the things that you really, really love, because how many times in our lives do we
Mm,
put off those things out of the fear of, "Well, I've got this job in the church as the pastor, and that's income I know that
hmm.
most likely is going to continue until the church runs out of money or whatever.
Right.
Um, and this way, I don't know what's gonna get
Yeah.
next."
It's such an unknown that I've walked into. I mean, so my partner is fully employed, so with benefits, and that's made it really possible. If she was not, I don't know if I could do this. I mean, with kids and
Right.
mortgage and all of those wonderful things that we saddle ourselves with as we adult. Um, yeah, right. Like what? Yeah, just series
Right.
of good decisions. That's what I describe him as. Just series of good decisions.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so her support has made it possible, and I give a lot to that. But it still is a huge unknown, a huge risk. Financially is the primary. The financial risk is the biggest one, but there's also this risk of identity.
Hmm.
It took me about almost a year to call myself a wilderness pastor, and I'm still not sure about that. Seminary trains you for parish ministry. There will be some variations, but primarily seminary education is still focused on parish-based ministry.
Yeah.
Our ordination's focused on that. Our denominational identity of pastor is focused on parish-based ministry. We have a whole caucus for specialized ministry. What does that say?
Right.
Specialized is another word for other, marginalized or different. So when you step out and when you've been a part of that center and then step out, there's this identity crisis. At least for me, there was an identity crisis of this is where I've been focusing for so long. Now I don't know what I'm doing. Uh,
Right.
so that was a part of the fear as well.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I and I think about just how many people, you know, at even at our age are like, I've done the ministry thing.
Hmm.
I still love or love-ish the church,
Hmm.
um, but I want to do different something different. I wanna serve in a different way, and, how we really need to be like, "Okay, so how can we support you?" And finding that way and not being, "No, what we really need is for you to be a pastor because we don't have enough," um,
Right, which
kinda
we do.
thing.
I mean, there is a pastor shortage, from what I understand. I
Mhm.
want to say so. One of the areas of support I got in the transition was through the Home Mission Society, um,
Oh,
with the co-creator incubator program. Uh, that was run by Lauren Ing. Fantastic program. Really helped me focus starting a business, thinking more entrepreneurially. Kind of getting out there a little bit. So that was very helpful in the transition and in getting started.
were you in group 2?
I was in group two.
In group 2, okay.
The
I'm
best.
so glad I'm so glad that you had that experience, that model is there, that there are people that can be there to
Yeah.
support people and their dreams. It's a really fun part to watch
Right.
how
And,
that
and
goes.
I think it speaks to this growing sense of this idea. I mean, even your whole this show that you do, Ministry Mondays, which the font's fantastic, by the way. I don't
Oh,
know,
thanks.
but that's really nice. Um,
We'll get you a T-shirt. They're new.
yeah, where's my shirt? Darn it. Stickers too would be great.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I'll put them on my bear canister. So before the bear, I put a lot of stickers on bear canisters. They're mostly like
Oh,
very like pro LGBTQ, pro peace, the Christians against Christian nationalism. That's all my bear canisters. So that the bear shows up, hopefully I'll get like a progressive liberal bear who'll be like, "Whoa,
oh,
all right,
okay.
yeah."
Okay. So, maybe
Most
my
bears will,
sister will be
progressive.
yeah. Hmm,
Well, because
okay.
they're very pro environment. That's where it
Yeah.
starts.
This is true. This is
Yeah,
true. But
yeah.
no, you're right, you're right. This is, when you leave the pasture, you're looking for that sense of identity.
Hmm.
Um, kind of you do. This is the person that and when you're pastor, we've all read the books and we know what we're supposed to do and all that stuff, but you live and breathe the church, and when you can breathe in a different way, um, then it's a beautiful thing, and then when you go, "Hey, I wanna do a thing," and they let you try
Right.
this thing, um, or you just do it, and then they bless it afterwards.
That's usually
I'm
the case.
lucky.
That's
I've
how
been
Baptists.
lucky.
Yeah, that's how
Um,
Baptists work. A non-hierarchical system is gonna be like afterwards, like, "Oh no, that was good. Way to go."
right. Right,
Like, "Oh,
right. Yeah, and then it just turns into this beautiful and lovely thing that builds this community of people who have survived a Ministry Mondays with Meg episode.
that's I'm gonna get the tattoo."
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a growing trend. It's a weird thing that's happening. That churches are still incredibly important and relevant, and I think are still like the core of at least Baptist life. I would say Christian life. I would say the local church is the core. Um, but there is this broadening of ministry beyond parish base. This isn't new for right now, but my hope is that this sense of that God is pulling us beyond the church into the world in different ways is an emerging aspect. Um, my hope is, as much as the Baptist denomination can give any kind of institutional support, which is it's a Baptist denomination, so the institutional support is going to be like we said, after the fact. Um, but the more that it can get ahead of the curve and say, how can we facilitate, help, support these other kinds of ministries, I think the better.
I agree.
Yeah.
So in your Baptist book, right? I mean,
Yes.
is that's pretty much. I mean, to call this a Baptist book would be fair, right? I
Oh,
mean,
very fair. Well, I mean, the subtitle, Peculiar Church, Practicing Baptist Theology.
right.
Right.
So the book is clearly for the four. Who did you write it for? Well, I wrote it for
Well,
the Baptist.
so, I mean, I would say any kind of low church
Okay.
ecclesiology, and I use that in a kind way, or free church might be another way to put it. So UCC, Disciples of Christ, Brethren, Church of the Brethren, ABC, CBC, Alliance of Baptist, any BCs that you can think of. Also, I think they would find this beneficial. Um, so it's primarily written for seminarians and lay people who are very interested in going a little bit further than that introductory, like how to be a church member kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's an academic leaning book, but is not specifically an academic book.
So it's
Yeah,
not going to be. It won't be over the heads of.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I understood it, so that says something, right?
I mean, but you also have a PhD, so there's that. I mean,
ah, that means little. That just means I'm stubborn. Um,
oh, is that what the PhD Okay.
just means you're stubborn. That's all.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so there's certain aspects I can't dumb down, and certain
Right.
words I just couldn't use differently. The word I think that shows up the most, that is might be the most challenging, is felicitous, because I talk about felicitous speech acts, and by that I mean language that makes sense in the context.
Hmm.
There's some foul there, so that's what a felicitous speech act means. This language that makes sense in the context of that community. It's probably one of the examples I think I gave is like if I stood up at the Malone Thanksgiving dinner, which for some reason is in the index because I mentioned it twice. But if I stood up in the dinner and I said, let's remember on the night when Jesus was betrayed, he took bread, broke it, and gave thanks and gave it to the disciples. I mean, everyone in my family would know what I'm talking about. They would understand the words I'm using. They've all grown up in the church. Not everyone goes anymore, but they have some. But that makes no sense in that context. It's an
Correct.
infelicitous speech act. Um,
Okay.
so that's what I mean. And so part of what I'm encouraging people to do is to say, understand the language, the grammar of your local church community, and be true to that. Don't say or do things that don't make sense.
No, I think that's a great example, really. I mean, I've never heard it described that way, but honestly, that really
Oh, good.
that helps because who's gonna if you were to stand up at your family Thanksgiving and do that, they're like, um, "You okay
Right.
over there? Or is there a joke we're missing? Or do
Right.
you just need to have communion at this moment? Bless
Right.
be with all
Yeah.
the signs," you know?
Yeah. Like setting, Malone, setting. Come on.
Right.
Everyone in our family, we refer to each other as Malone. Makes it very complicated when we have conversations, or even just asking for the bread. Malone, talk, pass the bread. Which Malone? Malone, Malone. It's
Oh,
insane.
so why did you write it? Did somebody ask you to write it? Did you just decide,
Um,
"Oh, this will be fun"?
yeah, just on a lark. No, so I was talking to some folks to some folks at Judson Press about writing something, and they asked if I'd be interested in writing a book on Baptist theology. So that was part of it, and what really pushed me. I mean, just asking me to write something, I was like, "Ah, that's a lot of work," because that's a lot of work. But my feeling is there still is a lacking of books on Baptist theology. We've got a lot of great history, a lot
Mhm.
of really good books on Baptist history. We have some good books on Baptist polity, and Hudson and Maring. I continue to go to, especially David Gregg's edition that came out, I think, in 2012.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can't go wrong with that, no.
no, my gosh, anything that David Gregg says or does is going to be amazing. Even if
Right.
it's wrong, it's still amazing.
I get that, yeah. I agree. David Gregg, if
um,
you're watching, you
he
know.
would, yeah, he would totally agree with what that. Maybe he wouldn't. I don't know. So I mean, so I wanted to put something. So this is not a book. This is not a history book. It's very clearly not a book of Baptist history. I'm not a historian. It is a theology book, but one that hopefully folks, like I said, seminarians, lay people can read and start to think about. Because I do believe that we don't have a practice of articulating our theology within the Baptist movement. I think it was, yeah, James McClendon wrote a really cool article in one of the American Baptist Quarterlies, which is a fine publication that's put out by the American Baptist Historical Society. Everyone, make sure you like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Uh, so he put an article about Baptist theology, and he basically said Baptist theology exists in response. We have a fight and we respond, and then we have a fight and we respond, and we have a fight and we respond. And so our theology is just constantly like responding to arguments and fights. That's
Mm,
not really good identity formation because it's always comes out of conflict. Uh,
right.
right. And how much of our church is that when you ask them like, well, what kind of church are you? Are you more of a progressive leaning church or more of a conservative leaning church? And folks are like, well, we're not really sure until someone says, well, what do you think about LGBTQ plus rights?
Mm,
Then they're like, oh, well, this is who we are, and now there's a fight that forms your identity. Why not start to form it really start to articulate your identity, sense of who you are as a church,
yeah.
before any arguments come, to say, how do we live? How do we exist as a community? What's our speech patterns? What's important in worship? What are those things that we really hold to? The practices. So language, I say like language and speech acts and grammar is more than just the language itself. It's the things that we do.
Mm,
Is there a Bible prominent in the center of the church? And if there isn't, that's not a criticism, but that says something about your understanding of space, um, of of the Bible. What does it say? If you moved it, what would that say? Is there an American flag in your sanctuary?
that great argument. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And if
Mm,
you move the American flag, would there be an argument? And if there would be, then to say like, well, apparently there's a strain of Christian nationalism that's a part of our identity.
mhm.
Then you could just say, once you name that, then you could say, like, do we like that or don't we? If we don't, what do we got to do to change it? At least now you can be deliberate about it. Have conversation before the conflict comes up.
But then you brought up that word change that,
Mm,
that makes everyone feel things, and that's the problem
you got to
is
feel the feelings.
like you gotta feel it. Yeah, exactly. And it becomes all about what am I gonna lose? Well, who says you're gonna lose anything? What about what you're gonna gain? Why
Yeah.
don't you flip the script and go,
I
yeah,
mean,
what am I gonna get?
I think we are going to lose something, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Um, I let's take the Christian nationalism idea. I mean, every church I served had a flag in the sanctuary, everyone, and I decided to not pick that fight. I
Mm,
don't know if that was the right decision. It was just a decision I made, partially out of cowardice, partially out of self survival, partially looking at the bigger picture of what the church had to deal with and saying, in the big scheme of things, this might not be the most important right now.
I
You know,
understand. Yeah.
right? But who knows in the end? But let's say you did say, like, let's really talk about this and let's talk about getting the flag out of the sanctuary. Something will be lost. For a lot of folks, it represents this honoring of troops, of people who have died in battle. It may represent the First Amendment and what that stands for, American freedoms. And to lose that symbol, maybe losing a part of that affirmation.
Yeah.
What might be gained would be is this kind of identity of saying we are beyond nation, we are God's people first.
Hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. And do you go into in the book? I mean,
Uh,
really, the identity portion?
to a degree, yes. I haven't memorized all my chapters yet.
That's
So,
okay.
like, yeah, one of the chapters, church life and church values, I do talk about churches having a sense, really coming to a sense of who they are. Um, I reference Jonathan Haidt's book, A Righteous Mind, which may be getting dated by now, but it's such a great work that I hope not. And Haidt is Haidt. He's I think a social psychologist, but comes up with all these different um, moralities and taste
Mhm.
buds. He describes that people have for morality. So more than just saying we're liberal or progressive, are we liberal or conservative, or progressive or conservative, saying we're a church that focuses on care,
Mm.
or church that focuses on loyalty or on fairness. Like all these different areas where um, different people get riled up for different reasons. So to say, so where are those touch points within your congregation so you can have a better sense of who you are as a church, and moving outside of these polarities that we've created that have become just destructive, I think.
No, I think that's beautiful.
Oh,
I
that's
really
not
do.
my stuff. I'm just ripping him off. I mean, I give him credit, but
No, well, I will put his book and name down in the comments so that if people want to go and add another book um to their library that they'll actually read, don't just
I
buy it
I
and
strongly encourage it. I would read my book first and then read Jonathan Haidt's.
yes, please. So that's the order. Read Jonathan Malone and
Then read Jonathan
so
Haidt. And
then
really,
Jonathan Knight.
almost anything written by a Jonathan tends to be good.
Okay, I'm gonna quote you on that, and then I'm gonna see what I can do to disprove that
I mean,
because
Jonathan Edwards is fine. He was a slave owner, so that was problematic.
right,
But his
right.
religious affections is beautiful.
I mean, I'm sure I could make a list of Jonathans that have but we'll just go with your statement because, you know,
I'm
there's
sure
that
there's
you.
some horrible, yeah. There's probably
Because
some other Jonathan is that's ticked off that even said that. Like, well, I don't like you.
right,
Yeah.
right. So you love what you're doing. You're
Yes.
doing the thing that you are called to do in a very you way, and you get to share it with other people. I mean, what could be so bad about that? I mean, other than like snakes, bears,
I mean,
mosquitoes.
yeah. I mean, so yeah, I do love what I'm doing. I love being in the wilderness by myself, but I also love taking people there to have the experience with them. If it's their first time ever, it's that much more enjoyable for me,
Mm,
because I really see it again through other people's eyes. But if it's not, if they've been many times but are just looking to have another experience, it's a gift for me, just to be a part of just the experience they're having. So yeah, so I absolutely love it. And I want to encourage people. There are still openings for many of the trips that I'm offering this summer, and you go to wildernessjourneys.org.
and we'll also make sure we put those in the show notes as well. I am not going to sign up for one. I
What?
am listen, I'm allergic to everything God made,
What do
literally.
you?
Grass,
What you?
grass, trees, weeds, all of it.
What if I took you to the ocean?
That's not the wilderness.
Why is the ocean not the wilderness?
Doesn't there have to be trees and
I think. I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I was just in the desert 2 weeks ago. Not a lot of trees there. I was in Zion National Park.
oh,
I, I think the wilderness is a place where where you are not in the front country.
okay.
And so, like, if you go out into the ocean, depending on how you go, if you go out on the ocean on a 100-foot yacht with all the amenities, including Wi-Fi, then I would say you're basically car camping or RVing, right? You're not really experiencing it. But I was really fortunate to be able to do a 5-day sailing trip with a friend of mine up the coast of Maine, and for me that was wilderness where we had to go with what the sea gave us. We were at the whims of the weather.
Hmm.
We didn't have all the amenities. It was really powerful.
Okay, I'll consider it.
Look at that. Let me tell you this though. I'm doing a couple of trips. One in Pennsylvania in the Poconos, one in Maine, where we're staying at an Airbnb and doing day hikes.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, I'll consider
you
it.
can there. See, that's all I needed. Or you're just
And
saying that. What's our time frame, Meg? I've forgotten. It just said what are we at? 3 hours for this?
you
First?
know, whatever,
Okay,
whatever. We just talk and
it's kind of
whatever.
like preaching. Just go for as long as you want.
I mean, people stop watching at some point. I'm told, whatever. Yeah, and and if they wanna edit it, they can edit it, but the original version, it's my
Always
show. It's
the
got my
original is
name.
always better. Hey, can I just make a plug for another thing that kind of I'm just
Go for it.
movies need intermissions again.
Oh, okay.
If a movie is gonna be over 2 hours, you need an intermission. These 3-hour movies with no intermission, that's absurd. That's like a form of torture. Come on, you can't do that. Bring back the intermission. People go to the concession stand, buy more stuff. You know, for some of us, we get to go to the bathroom and not have to freak out halfway during the movie. Am I gonna miss something?
Right.
If it's over 2 hours and 1 minute, intermission.
I like this.
You like that? See, you
Should we
thought it
make
was
this
gonna be
happen?
something else, huh?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was, like, gonna be some deep theological, but, I mean, we're pastors. We could make it deep and theological if you give us 15 minutes or so. We can
Oh,
we can
sure, yeah. I mean,
really.
intermission, like the sabbatical from the movie, or you could take a break and just
Um,
regain that harmony.
I mean, just give me a little bit of time. I got it. No
Yeah,
worries.
right, right.
We're Baptists. That's how we roll. That's what we do. Hmm. Yeah, I was prepared for it to be some deep, like, and then movies. Hmm.
No, when we're talking about
I
how
like
long the
that.
podcast was, it made me think about 3-hour movies. And I'm not
Mm.
against 3-hour movies. I just think you need the intermission, and it
Hmm.
gives the music composer something else to write.
No,
The
I
one
think
who
this
writes
is
the
good.
score, yeah, they could write a whole other thing for the intermission. I don't know how. The only way you lose is you can't show the movie as often during the day because it will be even that much longer.
Yeah, but I also like as as a person who sometimes is really nice to go to the bathroom
Mhm.
after 2 hours. Yeah, I think that intermission is excellent,
Yeah.
is an excellent idea because you have to have popcorn and you have to have something to drink.
I
And
go yeah. Before the Batman came out, I knew it was 3 hours long. I stopped 2 days before I stopped ingesting liquids just so I can make it through the 3-hour movie without stopping. I was like just like a
committed.
salted peanut. I went in there, I could barely walk. Um, my kidneys were shutting down, but I was sat through the whole thing, gosh darn it. I did it.
Are you this entertaining on the hikes? I just need to know.
I swear more.
Oh, well, just a lot. General just a general principle.
Sometimes the humor gets a little more juvenile. I mean, we make a lot of fart jokes because we fart a lot in the wilderness.
I mean, it's probably good for your body and
Yeah,
all
don't
that.
hold it in. Just let it out, and then blame it on a duck.
Even if you're nowhere near water,
Even
wow.
if you know, I mean, ducks fly. Who knows? I'm not one to like impose upon the ducks where they belong or where they don't belong. I'm very much pro duck freedom.
I wonder if those ducks feel very judged. I mean, because
When someone farts, I'm like, that was a duck. The duck's like, what? It wasn't me.
exactly,
For
exactly.
crying out loud.
I'm tired of being blamed for it. That guy over there, it's
Yeah, after
clearly not
this,
me.
I'm gonna have a whole like bunch of ducks protesting outside of my house after this. Like, stop blaming us for farts.
Okay, if that happens,
I'll take pictures.
I need pictures
Yeah,
because
definitely.
pictures or it didn't happen. But
Pictures
I
will be
mean, if one day I I learned that Jonathan Malone is attacked by ducks, I will know why, and I will have guilt
and I will be
about
yelling
it.
fire truck as I'm attacked by the ducks. It's a fire truck duck
Right. Exactly, exactly.
or duck fire
Oh
truck.
my gosh. Yeah. See, I knew that you'd be great.
Hey, folks, buy my book.
For a Ministry Monday on a Tuesday.
Yeah, because it's on a Tuesday. If this was a Monday, I would be very sober. I mean, I'm sober right now, but sobering. I'd be very straight laced about this. I'd be very serious, probably talking in a very monotone way,
I
using
don't
much
believe that at
words.
all. No, I don't.
I mean,
I don't believe
so
that.
well, when you ask it, this is how I am. I strongly believe in the idea of play as a theological practice. This isn't just my idea. In fact, I was just reading this book. I'm going to plug someone else's book. Andrew Root, Churches and the Crisis of Decline, which is
Mhm.
really good. But he writes about, I mean, really good, even though he's leaning on Karl Barth a lot. Despite that, still really good. Um,
Okay.
but he emphasizes the importance of play in church life.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I would add that I would broaden that to just play in one spirituality. And in the wilderness, you got to laugh as much as because the emotions just go all over. You're like awe, and then you're like disgusted because it's hard, and then it's raining, and you're miserable, and then you're laughing because you're in the woods and you've got to.
Right. And you're like, why did I pay for this? And am I gonna fall off the side of a
Right.
hill, mountain? Is that flock of ducks going to attack me?
Those fire truck and ducks. Um,
Yeah,
so in fact, can I share a story?
sure.
So this was last a couple years ago. I was taking some youth in the Adirondacks, and we went to the top of one mountain, and it was already very foggy. The weather was questionable, and then a storm started coming in. Like I could feel it coming in. The rain was starting to fall. It was getting very windy, and I told the group, I said, we've got to just really be right next to each other. I was holding the hand of one hiker because she just wasn't quite sure-footed.
Mhm.
It's getting cold, and we're trying to make our way down, and I'm feeling very much on edge because our life wasn't, like death wasn't imminent, but this was getting to be a dangerous situation. And I was thinking of the papers like the next day, like pastor loses 6 youth in the Adirondack Mountains, like something like that. So we're making our way down slowly, and there's these two kids in the back. They're refugees from Tanzania, and,
Oh,
and we're walking down, and I'm just saying, let's just stay focused, let's just make our way down. And they started singing. They started singing a kind of a chant, kind of a repeating people's names, and then adding other things to the names, kind of a rhyming, singing something I'm not going to even try to duplicate or replicate because it wouldn't be true to who I am. And so completely unprovoked, unasked, they just started playing,
wow.
and it changed the whole attitude. It changed everything. Yeah,
That's lovely.
yeah. For me, that was a Holy Spirit moment.
Yeah.
And a Holy Spirit moment that led to this wonderful moment of play in the face of what could have been very dangerous.
Hmm.
And I only lost one kid.
Only one.
Yeah, that's still a passing grade. No, we all made it down. We all made it down very safely. We all made it fine. But I give a lot of credit to those two. Yeah, I
Mm,
don't know if they intuited it or just felt it, but they did. They just started playing, and it was perfect. It was
that's
absolutely perfect.
fantastic.
Yeah,
That's 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 a fantastic story. I love that. I love it.
yeah.
Um, so for the joy question, how could I forget the joy question? I forgot that one.
Oh,
The whole thing. Joy.
yeah. She
What?
lives down the street.
Oh, really? You got a neighbor named Joy? That's
You
nice.
must have heard that. People must give you that joke already.
No, you're the first one.
Are you kidding? Give me the
No.
names and addresses of every previous guest. I'm going to write them angry letters.
Okay, you're guest number 40, and no,
It's
you're
worth
the
it.
first one to
It's
say
commitment to a bit. And it's worth it for me to say, how dare you miss this joke?
right,
How dare you,
right,
sir and or madam?
right, dear sir and or madam. Okay, yeah.
Oh, so
Uh,
what's your joy question? Go ahead.
okay, so think about all the things that you do, you know,
Hmm.
tripping over rocks, harassing ducks, those kind of things.
They had it coming.
Right. Um, what brings you joy?
There's multiple things.
Okay.
When I'm by myself, part of it is just a good hike. I enjoy
Mm,
a good hike where, I pushed myself, not ridiculously, but I pushed myself. So end of the day, I'm feeling worn, not exhausted, but worn. Like, and there's a sense of aliveness to that of climbing a mountain and like this hurts. This mountain's kicking my butt. But you get there. I'm like, that was good. That was really good. I think that's like a very primal place of joy. Um, the next thing are those small things that I notice or someone else notices that are really cool, like a mushroom that just looks amazing. That's really cool.
hmm,
Um, for me, the sounds of wind going through aspen leaves because it makes a particular sound when wind goes through aspens. because the leaves rotate a bit, and it sounds really cool. And anytime I'm hiking through a stand of aspens and the wind blows, I stop so I can just listen. That's a so now we're moving up. That's more of like an awe-inspiring joy.
Yeah.
When I see a hiker have a moment of inspiration because of the experience. So just this past week, we were doing a hike in the North Cascades and came up on this lake, and it opened up, and we were just surrounded by mountains. And one of the hikers, she was so overwhelmed with the beauty of the moment, she gave the other one another one a hug.
Oh.
Yeah, and for me that was like such joy. And then I think the the deepest joy is when I'm able to be still. And this is a practice I try to do in the wilderness, depending on the weather and how cold it is. Um, but to be still for 5 or 8 minutes and just to be still and
Hmm.
to listen, to smell, to feel, to receive. And and in that moment, if when I really feel God's presence, it's this quiet kind of joy.
Hmm.
That's not an overwhelming, like gleeful jumping around. It's this more awe. But I don't think awe could be separated from joy. I feel like joy is a key component of that sense of awe, or as Abraham Heschel says, wonder. Maybe he says awe as well. I'd have to read his stuff again.
That's lovely.
Thanks.
No one has ever explained what brings them joy
Oh,
in that way. Um, but it's really lovely.
thank you.
I like that. I like that a lot.
That the concept of joy is profound,
Yeah.
and so important for one's spirituality. I think it's a brilliant question.
It's my favorite part is
Mm.
the joy question because, we all do very different things in our lives, um, under this category of ministry.
Right.
But, if it doesn't bring you joy, then why are you doing it?
'Cause, yeah, 'cause, not for the money, that's for sure.
Mhm, mhm.
Well,
Right. So yeah, you've gotta have that thing. And so normally I tell people, you know, if they insist on, I need something to prepare me. Okay, well think about the joy question. Hint, the answer is not Jesus. Um,
oh, I totally forgot to say Jesus. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Him too.
because but Jesus is the Sunday school answer, the easy answer, the surface level answer. And okay, if that's your answer, that's fine, but give
Yeah.
me a little more than just Jesus. And so I think it's beautiful and lovely,
Oh, thank you.
the way you've described it.
Thank you.
So a peculiar church practicing Baptist theology is available at
Yep,
judsonpress.com. Uh, Jonathan is going to be at the biennial for listeners who are going to be in Puerto Rico,
yep.
assuming that neither of us get kicked out, of Puerto Rico.
You gotta try hard, but I'm game to try.
Right? Okay. Why not? So Jonathan's going to go be part of a group interview. We'll see how that goes. Um,
I'm gonna cough loudly while my, co-authors speak.
are you okay? At least I'm
I'm gonna
prepared.
do everything I can to sabotage and bring them down.
I'm gonna pack a duck in my suitcase and just randomly bring it out in the middle of.
The duck. I'll say,
So that would
"What the
be
fire truck? It's a
my.
duck."
Yes, exactly. Oh man, now I know why we're friends. And you're signing your book if somebody wants to
Yeah.
stand in line and meet you.
Heck, I'll even write a note to you.
That's so nice.
I mean, it may
That's
be a note to the
so nice.
person behind you or something. My note might be, "Look out behind you, Jonathan," and then hand you the book.
Right?
But
I mean, have you ever been tempted like to write your grocery list in there or something like that?
yeah,
I
don't
mean
forget to pay the electricity bill.
that. Exactly. Exactly. And in your next book, it could be the Jonathan Comedy Hour because
Right.
you know, why
I
not?
I will say that a peculiar church has reached just the requisite amount of bassoon references.
Okay, yeah. So you mentioned the mad bassoon
My
skills,
my
right?
mad bassoon skills. Yeah, I'm a bassoonist.
Really?
One wouldn't lie about that. One wouldn't make that up. That's
Right.
just
I
too
know.
embarrassing. Why
Which
would
is why
who would make that up? That
I
was my
mean,
yeah.
right. I mean, as a clarinetist, who is
Clarinetist is
horrible.
it's halfway there. One reed.
Right.
Add the other
Um,
reed and you're gonna be perfect.
but I enjoyed the bass clarinet.
Oh, good for you. See, now
That's
just add
not
the other
fun.
reed to that one and you've got a bassoon.
Right. I
That's a
mean,
lot of firewood. That's what I know.
mm, okay.
So,
All right.
yes, pick up the book.
Um,
I'd be thrilled to talk to folks about it. If churches want to have me come and speak, if we can schedule it, I'm happy to do that about the book, about my wilderness stuff, anything. If folks want to schedule day hikes, backpacking trips, or set something up, reach out to me. I really will work with just about anyone. Just about anyone.
we won't name names
No,
on
but
the
they
air.
rhyme with no.
Right. We won't name names on the air. And I will just say that our friend Mindy Welton Mitchell did leave us a comment and that the book is excellent. So I
Oh,
felt like shout out
please.
to Mindy.
And
Thanks
Mindy
for that
gave me
too.
some Mindy gave me some really excellent thoughts for if I were to do a revision about adding
Mm,
in, theology for those. Boy, I'm not sure the best wording for it for disabled, or
mm,
and if I'm messing up the language, I apologize because it's clearly an area I just haven't done any study or work,
right.
and it's a place I want to. So, Mindy, thank you for watching and thanks for that for those
Yeah,
comments. Some really well articulated, well put comments.
not great. Not
Yeah,
great.
all those areas of growth.
So I will put links to your wilderness journey and
Thank you.
to Judson Press and to all the things I can find in the show notes. So on Facebook, that'll be just below, and I'll just put them everywhere, and
Excellent.
you can harass Jonathan at your leisure. I suppose you can me too, but
Yeah,
you
harass
know.
away. Is there going to be music as we leave? Should I start dancing yet, or do we
Oh
wait?
my gosh, do you want the music again? Because we
It's
can make it. You
like
are
I
the
say,
like
it sounds like just like a U2 cover band praise music.
Oh my gosh.
It's it's
Um,
yeah.
so this has been a blast.
Oh, good. I had a good time.
Uh, yeah, this is probably the most I've laughed in any of them. Sorry, other 39 guests. Um,
Nailed it.
but yeah, we're just gonna be honest here. And your Ministry Monday on a Tuesday. So
That's what it takes.
that's right. So next week up is Curtis Ramsey Lucas.
Oh, excellent.
So Curtis, you have big shoes to fill at this
Curtis
end.
is going to do great. He's going to be
Right.
amazing. He's got a lot of important things to say. It's going to be fantastic. Ask him to play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, BMS, for letting me do my thing. It indeed brings me joy. And for
Good.
Jonathan, fine, we'll do the countdown. All
Ready.
right, here we go.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.